We like to think we're smart with our money. We imagine ourselves as cold, calculating economists, crunching the numbers and making perfectly logical choices before we swipe a card or buy a stock. Traditional financial models assume a world where everyone makes purely rational decisions, but they ignore the messy reality. Human emotions and money are deeply entangled. This chart shows a stock peaking at $150 before plummeting to a $50 plateau. Your immediate reaction might be to buy. Compared to $150, $50 feels like a steal. But you ignored the terrible earnings. The stock quickly crashes to $10. Your investment was wiped out because you failed to evaluate what the company is actually worth today. Your judgment was hijacked by a single outdated number. This failure of logic is the core focus of behavioral finance, the study of how cognitive biases and psychological shortcuts disrupt the markets. Decades ago, psychologists like Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky revolutionized economics by proving that human investors are systematically biased. We make irrational choices in highly predictable ways. The specific psychological flaw that caused our stock disaster is known as anchoring. This animated diagram illustrates how the glitch works in the brain. When you try to solve a problem, your mind relies heavily on the very first piece of information it receives. That first number drops into your mind and sets an invisible perimeter, warping all your subsequent logic toward its center of gravity. In our stock example, that $150 historical maximum became your anchor. It established a false reference point in your head. Because you were anchored to that old high, the new price of $50 felt like a massive discount. That perceived bargain blinded you to the objective reality of the market. We miscalculate risk because anchoring tricks us. We attempt to solve complex, present-day problems using irrelevant historical data. Anchoring does not operate in isolation. It belongs to a larger family of cognitive biases that actively sabotage our financial planning. Consider loss aversion. The psychological pain of losing money feels roughly twice as intense as the joy of gaining the exact same amount. This intense aversion drives us to hold on to rapidly depreciating assets. We endure heavy losses in the vain hope that an investment will someday recover its original purchase price. Then there is overconfidence, our tendency to overestimate our own analytical abilities, and herd behavior, where we blindly copy the spending and investing trends of others just to keep up with social pressure. Together, these biases act as an invisible operating system, silently fighting against our long-term financial stability. Behavioral finance diagnoses our irrationality, but emotional intelligence provides the tools we need to fight back and detach the anchor. In a financial context, emotional intelligence is the ability to perceive, understand, and regulate your emotional triggers before they dictate your money choices. The first step is separating emotion from logic by using behavioral nudges. For example, force yourself to sleep on big financial decisions. This simple delay allows your immediate emotional arousal to fade. Next, you have to intentionally destroy the anchor. You do this by actively shifting your reference point when evaluating a purchase or an investment. Look at this chart again. You have to ignore the stock's past peak or an item's original retail price. Ask yourself what it is actually worth today, pretending you have zero knowledge of its history. Market data and spreadsheets are only tools. The real work of financial literacy happens in the mind. Before you make your next move, look closely at your reasoning and ask if you're deciding based on the world as it is today, or if you're just dragging an anchor.